You're listening to REIA Radio, the nationally trusted name in real estate investing. We dig deep to discover investors' why in real estate. If you want to skip all the BS and get in investors' heads, you're in the right spot. Be one of the thousands to check out REIARadio.com.
This episode is brought to you by PropStream.com.
PropStream is one of the most trusted real estate data software solutions. PropStream benefits all real estate professionals. You can find properties and contact homeowners on the go with PropStream's mobile app. We offer free academy courses tailored to real estate investors and agents. Take advantage of our live webinar demos to learn the software and scale your real estate business. Visit www.propstream.com and sign up for your 7-day free trial to get more leads and grow your business.
Welcome to the Real Estate Rundown with Owen Dashner and Ted Kaasch. Yeah, I can't say my own name, man.
So have you cleared this? Have you fact checked out there that doesn't exist already?
Well, it's not like it's not
in the universe of podcasts out there for real estate.
Not at all.
Okay,
but it isn't the name of the podcast. It's just what we're calling the segment.
Okay, all right. The Real Estate Rundown is a segment of REIA Radio.
REIA Radio. That's our Monday thing.
Yeah, in defiance of all of the listeners out there that shamelessly download our episodes and provide no feedback on the name that we want for this segment, we are settled on Real Estate Rundown.
And what you can expect in the Real Estate Rundown, just so you guys know, is just getting a little bit banter between us, what's going on in our real estate careers. And we're going to touch a little bit on sometimes a little edgy topics. It could be a little politics, could be some finances.
Yeah, what's going on in the world in real estate currently? What's going on in our lives? Yeah, like tips, tricks. Stay tuned. You don't know what's going to come out of Ted's mouth.
Yeah, and a couple things that we're looking at for future episodes. Of course, we're always looking for people to interview. So if you know somebody that would be a good interview, or if you feel like you would be a good interview, please reach out to us on one of our social medias. It could be on our Facebook page or our Instagram, REIA Radio.
And Ted has a casting couch here at Realty One studio.
There's no casting couches. There's black chairs, yes. And then with that too,
our producer even turned around like, "What?"
He's like, "That's my old show I used to produce." But the other thing that too is that we're gonna get in a little bit topics. If there's a topic that you want to cover, if it could be, the NAR, if it's something on, title companies, if there's something on banking, if there's like a specific topic that you think that we should hit and really dig deep into and just do instead of doing interviews, please let us know. And we're going to take all that advice and all your suggestions.
Amen, brother.
There we go.
All right. So in the spirit of Real Estate Rundown, I thought we'd bring up something fun and topical and something like meat and potatoes that somebody listening to this episode that's, either getting started in real estate investing or maybe they've been doing it for a while but need a refresh on kind of like stuff out there.
Yeah.
I thought we'd do like a kind of like tips and tricks, like tools and processes type of a
golden nugget. And this golden nugget is brought to you by JM Real Estate Capital.
Hi, it's Rob, JM Real Estate Capital. We're the money guys that you need to know for all your real estate investments. Talk to us. We can do what your local bank can't or won't do. We don't have millions. We have trillions with a T to lend. 844-we close, or go online, jmrecapital.com. That's jmrecapital.com. JM Real Estate Capital. Smart solutions for the real estate investor.
Never got to gold nugget this fast.
I know. Here we go. Right off the bat. I just couldn't wait.
Normally we like to keep it to the end.
That's right.
Keep them to the end. But right now it's such a hot topic. We got to do it right now.
Well, and there's a lot to cover here. Ted and I were talking before we got on air today that it might be fun to kind of go over like apps, tools, stuff that you use on a day-to-day basis as a real estate investor that make your life easier, or maybe there's something that can shortcut manual processes, or even like stuff that you have automated that that isn't working all that great. You get it.
Yeah, totally.
But I thought we'd start with that and talk about, like, on a day-to-day basis, what do you use, Ted? Maybe like rattle off a couple, and then I'll share some of mine, and we'll kind of go back and forth here, hot potato style.
Okay, so I use Dropbox on the daily.
Okay.
So every time I walk a property, I put all the pictures from that walk and any details I have from my research, and I put it into a file under the address. And I've done that for the last 9 years, and I've created quite the database. And there's properties that I have walked, come to find out I've walked 2-3 times and then sold 6, 7, 8, 9 years later.
Okay, I want to ask you this. If you have been in the real estate investing world, or even if you're, on the brokerage side where you're a realtor or a broker and you're going out showing houses, I don't know about you, Ted, but my phone and my digital footprint is probably 95% houses and ugly crap that has happened in properties that I either own or want to own or don't want to own, and the rest is my kids and sunsets and my dog.
So I delete every couple months. I go through and I just delete every house picture because I upload almost everything into my systems.
Yeah, let's say you and I are going to go out and tour a property together, and it's one we're pretty serious about, right?
Yep.
And we're taking pictures. We need to show it to somebody else that's not there, and that's when I'm the most diligent about taking pictures and notes and all that. What do you do? So you take a bunch of them, and what are you focusing on? So you're walking through a property. What are you trying to get?
So I actually have this really systematized. On the inside, I'm going to take 2 opposite angles of each room. I'm going to do a wide angle shot of each room. And then everything that needs to be written on my rehab sheet.
So do you put your phone sideways?
Yes.
I want to get really detailed here. So you set your phone sideways. You take
I go to the 0.05 focus, so it zooms out.
Okay.
And I do 2 photos of every room minimum, and then everything that I want to replace, switch out, or that needs to be on my rehab sheet, I'm doing a close-up picture of it. Because I want to be able to run through it quick in about 15, 20 minutes and not sit there and write everything out like I used to when I was younger. So I'm going through and I'm like, and this bathroom needs remodel, or this toilet's broken, or this fixture needs to be changed, or there's bare wires hung out. I'm doing close-up pictures of all that stuff.
Okay. Now, if you don't mind, can we dig into this a little bit? Because, I know what I do sometimes is I'll be on an appointment. I'll have a seller that is walking me around the house, and they're chatting me up, and they're telling me, how long they've lived there and what they've done with each room and all that. And it gets, you're trying to pay attention to what needs done, but you're also trying to pay more attention to them and their story. What do you do with the pictures? So, once you leave, you have this whole, let's say you have 50 pictures. What are you doing with them specifically? Are you labeling them? Are you saving them under a if you could maybe elaborate on that.
So one thing that's different is probably about 10% of the houses I walk are in your situation, but 90% of the houses I walk are vacant.
Okay.
So let me just put that out there. So I'm getting done. They're in my phone. When I get home, just because I have internet, things move a lot faster. Otherwise, the upload takes forever. I have a special area, my Dropbox account. I label the file, the name of the property.
Okay, so you do the property address, and then you upload all the pictures to that file.
So then in there, I create a file one that says pictures.
Yep.
And then so I upload all the photos in there, and then I have a rehab sheet that I have that it kind of gives me ideas of how much the estimate's going to cost. So I'll use the pictures, I'll fill out the rehab sheet, I scan it in, I put that into the file under the rehab folder now.
Now, when you say scan it,
I have a scanner at home.
Okay, so you physically scan. What are you scanning? Sorry,
my rehab sheet.
Okay, so you fill out a rehab sheet based on the pictures you saw, and you're like, okay, popcorn ceiling needs scraped and redone.
My sheet's way more simplified than that.
Okay,
it's just it's I have a furnace section, and it says
furnace
20 or furnace AC
needs replaced or doesn't need replaced.
Has round pricing on each one.
Okay, got it.
So I put that in there, and then that goes under a folder called rehab.
Okay,
and then I'm going to the Douglas County Assessor or your local assessor page, no matter what county it is. And then I'm screenshotting or downloading the Douglas County Assessor page for all the information on there. And
that's really good.
I put that in. I also go to the tax page, and then I download the taxes on there, so I have the taxes for when I'm doing my.
And you're going to your county assessor where the property's located, looking up the property address, and you're taking a screenshot of the actual full page, and then you click into it. Now, if you're catching this and you're a national listener, you're not in Omaha, Nebraska or around there, you're probably going to have a county assessor page, and it may be similar to this. So Ted's talking about getting the tax info and getting the property data sheet from the assessor and uploading both of those to his Dropbox for that, right?
Yep.
That's the gist of it, right?
It is.
Okay.
So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to rentometer.com.
Okay.
Rent-O-meter, and if you've never used it, you get a couple trials for free just for logging on with a new email. And I'm getting an idea of rent comps, and I'm gonna get those as close as possible because I'm gonna use that in my pro forma.
So you're talking about like, hey, I think I might want to buy this, but I have no idea what stuff rents for in this part of town.
Or maybe the buyer just wants to have an idea what it could potentially rent for before they make a final decision, so they can run a pro forma.
And so Rent-O-meter is, like you said, kind of like, we'll call it free. It's obviously not going to be totally free eventually, but if you want to try it out and get a flavor for it, you can look up a property address and it'll say, recommended rental range is $1,200 a month. That'll at least give you a baseline, right?
And it usually says that for this property, it'll say the low 25% in the top, so it gives you 4 prices.
Yep.
And it gives you an idea to say, hey, is this property the top? Am I going to make this the best in the area? Is it going to if it's going to have granite and stainless steel and everything's new? Then you go to the top price. And
that's helpful.
Yeah,
that's actually really helpful because then you're going to know, like, if you're touring, especially in a multifamily property, it becomes really important because it's a magnifier, right?
It is.
And you look at one unit and you're like, okay, if I do a basic remodel, if I do like a remodel plus, or if I do like a full turn where you're replacing like countertops, appliances, fixtures, lighting, flooring, paint, like the whole thing, then that's really important to know because if you multiply that times 24 units, 100 units, whatever your model is, it's a huge multiplier out of that, right?
And one thing I'm just disclose here is I'll use Rent-O-meter for a quick number.
Yep.
But if my client or myself is moving forward with the sale, that isn't my end-all decision.
Good point.
I actually like to come up with the Rent-O-meter number, and then I like to go Zillow and see what their rent number is.
Okay.
And then I like to call a property manager and get their number, and then I have my own personal guess on every property, and then I divide that by 4. And then almost always that rent number is almost pretty exact.
Now, the last thing you mentioned there, you said your
my own guess
number. Okay,
yeah. So
you're kind of like, okay, I know this market.
Yes.
Zillow is a software; they don't know it like I know it. And I'm going to give my gut check
and I feel
on this. That's a great tip, actually. So you have 3 data points, and then you say, do these really check out with what I know about Omaha and that part of town and that crime rate or whatever, right?
And
is that what you're saying?
And I'm going to tell you what, my gut check is always within about 10% of what that number is.
That's really good. I really like that, actually. So anybody catching this, make sure and jot that down because that's fantastic. So when you're trying to find out like what your ROI or your rent number is on a property, dial into what Ted just said because, Zillow has free info out there. And you said Rent-O-meter, and then what was the other one?
Did we say Zillow?
Zillow, yeah. Zillow has good info out there,
and
too.
And a property manager.
Yeah.
You got to call a property manager.
So those are all great data points.
And I feel like the property manager is always the lowest number.
Really?
Always.
Yeah?
And you know why I think that? It's because their goal is get that rented as fast as possible.
Yeah.
And the lower number rents as fast as possible.
Interesting.
There is a value to it renting fast, in full disclosure, because every month you wait. If you got to wait a month to sell that thing, you've lost out any profit you would have got from the higher rate. So,
yep.
And then people just don't think like that. But, if you're trying to get a loan, you want that number that's going to – it sometimes is worth waiting a month or 2 months because when it comes to resale value or getting a loan, that number is so important.
Yeah.
And it's a give-take. You got to look at your own situation and make a decision.
Right said, Ted.
So then I'm going to do a screenshot of the Zillow and put it in there. And then I'm also going to create a pro forma.
Okay.
And now I have my own pro forma that I use that I found is best. But for listeners, if you want to get a pro forma that is already created for you and you get a couple free ones, but then you got to pay for it thereafter, by becoming a member of Bigger Pockets, they have amazing pro formas on there. There's a lot more filling out you got to do for theirs, but they do have some amazing pro formas that are included with your membership. But however you do your pro formas, you can talk to pretty much any investor and they're going to share their pro forma with you.
Yeah.
It's not generally a big deal. But then I put that pro forma in that file to kind of put a bow on it. And then I'm going to share my link to the drop block to my potential buyers. And then they have everything they need to move forward.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, guys, you should earmark this episode because Ted has dropped some really, really golden nuggets, almost platinum nuggets.
I love platinum nuggets.
Yeah, almost there. We'll hold out judgment until people review this.
Okay.
But anyway, I really like that. So Dropbox is great. So Dropbox is basically, for those of you not familiar, it's a like generally pictures. That's what you're uploading there, but also files, like anything you want to keep.
It's a file data management system.
Exactly. Yeah. And there's older
it's
ones.
the cloud, but it's not really in the sky.
Yeah, exactly. So I use one called Sugar Sync. It's been around for a long time. Like it was maybe the first one ever.
I never heard
I don't
that
even know how they're still in existence. I may be keeping them alive. We appreciate a sponsorship. But anyway, I have all my stuff on Sugar Sync. And the best thing about this is, so like you and I were talking before this recorded, or I prompted you on this. I got asked again recently, like, what do you do to file your stuff? If you have like a shitload of pictures, or like if you're a real estate investor, you always have like title work and like loan documents and pictures of properties and like lease agreements, and there's so much stuff, and it gets overwhelming when you get like more and more properties. And so you have to keep a handle on it. I like the way I found that at least keeps me somewhat sane is to use Sugar Sync for this. And, you know, it's similar to Dropbox. You just upload all your crap and you have to label it properly. And one thing I want to make abundantly clear here is get in front of how you are naming files. And I've seen this over and over and over again in multiple businesses where people are sloppy about what they name files. Mm-hmm. So they may say Willow or Elm or whatever, because it's what they're talking about right now. They send it to you as a document, right? You save that document in your file system and you call it Elm. Are you going to know what that is later? I have no idea what half of this crap is.
My files are immaculate.
So what here's what, and I'm glad you agree with me on this. So what I do, and I'm curious on you, we have what we call a naming convention for your files. And this is important. So if you are, if you're running a business, what I want to do in my business is I want to call out, like in my case, obviously it's real estate, right? So if I have 123 Main Street as the property, and then I have, let's say it's an insurance file, and let's say it's a declaration page. So what I do in this, and I'm curious on your approach here, but I'm going to call it 123 Main Street _, State Farm _ and then I'm going to put the date on it. And I'm going to say declaration page _ 10/24. And 10/24 stands for October of 2024. And I know that whenever I look that up, and I can sort it whenever I'm looking at all my files, and it'll rise to the top or the bottom or whatever I'm looking at.
So I don't name my individual files like that, but let me just give you an example of my tax files.
Yeah.
So I actually every business LLC has its file. Mm-hmm. Every file has its bank documents and properties that are held and insurance documents and whatnot. But let's just use my taxes, for example. You go to my tax file, it actually has every year of taxes since I've had digital copies. And then it's like, hey, here's my tax files and here's my tax docs for each individual year.
So how do you name them?
So it'd be like 2024 tax docs, 2024 tax files. And the docs are the ones I get from my accountant, and the docs are the ones I get that I'm putting in there for my accountant. The files are my final stuff. And then in each one, I'll have each business named out.
Yeah.
And then under each one, then you go into each business, and then it breaks it down to, again, what the files are called.
Yeah. So I go in and I do like foldering.
I literally label every single bank and with every single.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. Here's another tip for you. So if you're going out and sometimes you get into a bookkeeping nightmare where you're trying to find a specific receipt, a file, something that was like tied to a date. So here's what I started doing. So I'll call out the property _ and then whatever the file is, right? So if it's State Farm or if it's, like First National Bank, and then like what it is. So it's statement, and then November of 2024. And then I might even like throw a specific example in there. So like if I'm looking for a receipt, if I say, okay, 123 Main Street _ Menards _ garage door _ $483.41. And guess what? I can go back and search for that, and I can find it.
That's crazy.
And you know what I mean? So
that's a lot of work.
Yeah, I know. And this is a long gold nugget, but get specific on your apps and your files that you record so you can find them easier.
So here's the other apps I have, and you can let me know if you want to elaborate on any of them. I use Google Sheets a lot.
Me too.
I also use Google Documents, and I use Google Storage just for this podcast, for instance.
So Google Sheets, Google Docs, they're share files, and if I share mine with Ted, he can make edits to it, and I'm going to see his edits in real time. So that's the benefit of doing that, and it's free.
I use the MLS, of course.
Of course.
I use an app as a real estate agent called Forewarn.
Love Forewarn.
I can't tell you how often I use that. It's probably one of my top used apps lately. Even if I get I'm not gonna lie, there's 100 phone calls that come through my phone a day, and I don't answer the ones that aren't saved in there unless they come up on Cardi. And I will backtrack those phone numbers and double check to see who they are, see if they're real people.
I love that, man.
Yeah,
I have never used that more than the last couple of years, and I think you were the one that told me about it originally.
Yeah.
So I love Forewarn.
Forewarn's awesome. And actually, to give it a shout out, I had an old elementary school friend that we were very close and just fell off the world.
Yeah.
And I used Forewarn to find him and get his cell phone number.
That's so funny. And it turns out he was in prison.
Yeah, he was in prison for a while, yeah.
Yeah. I was kidding. But
no, but it's interesting. I use MailChimp, which is...
MailChimp, that's a email contact management software, right?
Yep,
so
it's
marketing.
It's free, I think, if you have under 1,000 contacts.
Okay.
But once you start going up, it starts jumping up pretty quick. I got 8,000 contacts in there, and you can categorize your contacts. So, like, I have one file that's all labeled just realtors. So I have all the realtor email lists. So if I want to send something just to realtors, I can do that. Or I can do my client list. Or I can do just REIA members.
Yeah.
So I have that all broken down. The MailChimp's awesome, and it links with a lot of different businesses.
Yep.
We use Riverside FM for podcasting.
Yeah, Riverside's great. It's I don't know. I mean, they haven't sponsored us, so I can talk smack. But I haven't seen any other platforms that are as good. There may be
Bear. Can you vouch for that? The Bear. Can you vouch for? Is there any other platforms that are like that one for podcasting?
Yeah, Zoom is pretty good, but I mean Riverside is the best when it comes to doing like video stuff and like podcasting. We even use it at KPAO, which is pretty good.
What is KPAO?
KPAO Community Television.
Okay.
Where,
so community television's even using it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
a lot of places are using it.
Our editors that work on us will even upload content that is outside of this to put it in there, get it in, and then have it shareable, have it editable.
Yeah.
And then also it has an AI system part of it that will create clips for you for your video shorts, and it will automatically put all the verbiage right on there for you.
Yeah, that's super
and
cool.
Download it. So super cool.
Also, I know you're not done yet, but Timber Creek Virtual, they've been on, Brad Bader, JB Holden. Brad's been on the podcast a couple of times, and they're great for VA work. So if you need a virtual assistant, wanted to give them a shout out. They know they run your life, basically, Ted.
And they're actually a new sponsor of the podcast.
Boom!
So you'll hear the commercial on this. And then you're going to love this one. I use ChatGPT.
No, that's shocking no one.
I use it a lot.
Yeah, we know. With all the words that you never use in real life that end up in your written stuff. So I'm going to throw in a couple others. I know this is going long here, but I'm hoping that anybody catching this, like if I'm listening to this, I'm going to be jotting down some notes
because I think this is good.
I don't know some of the stuff that you use, and it sounds really helpful. And maybe you don't know some of the ones I'm going to say, but so
I never heard of Sugar Lust before.
Sugar Sync.
Oh, Sugar Sync. Sorry,
pervert. So there's it's basically a web security platform called WebRoot, all one word, WebRoot. This was brought to me recently by okay, I'm going to bring this up too. So let's say you have a small business and you have a few partners or employees and you're all working off of similar documents or emails or whatever, And you're going to encounter some hacks or some attempted hacks. It's important that cybersecurity is part of your, by the way, we're not getting paid for any of this, but we hired an IT support company, like an ad hoc one, for my liquid lending business, or hard money company. And they basically, like, we can call them whenever, and I can be like, hey, dude, I have problems with my email, or I have XYZ going on. It's basically like having an employee, an IT person in your office, but they're not there, and you don't have to pay them to be there all the time. They're just like a small monthly, and then whenever you need them, they're boom, like on the scene.
That's so nice.
Yeah, and they can do like a remote login to your computer and figure out, like, and this just happened to me this week. I was like, what is going on? Like, I can't figure this out, and he like saved the day. So he installed WebRoot on my computer at home that I use for all my work, right? And I was like, what is WebRoot? Like, I have Symantec and McAfee and whatever. And he basically like laughed me out of the room.
Is this because you're a PC guy?
Yeah, it is. It totally is. And but he's like, that's cute. Like, kind of like patted me on the head and was like, all right, delete that shit. Download WebRoot. And I'm like, all right, what is that? I'm like, you know what? I don't care. I trust you.
Coming from the former IBM person.
Hey, man, tech changes fast.
Totally. Every 5 years.
Yeah. And so anyway, so I'll add that one. And then I have a couple of others that are interesting. So in my lending business, and let's be honest, anything in real estate anymore is very sensitive information, generally, that you're trading back and forth with people, right? So you're sending email, and a lot of times, like banks, you know, any type of lender or attorneys or whatever, they're going to ask you for your personal financial statements, your tax returns, all that stuff. So it becomes more and more important to secure that. And I'm not saying this is fail-safe, like this is not what I'm claiming today, but we use different messaging software, one in particular called Zix, Z-I-X. So you can securely upload files. There's another one called ThreadWorks. Do you have any of those that you ever deal with? Or
no, I don't. I don't deal with those at all.
Yeah, they're you know, as well, as far as I know, they work. Yeah. I haven't seen anything on the dark web recently with my, you know, stuff. But also a couple others. DocuSign is a lifesaver, time saver. And then one recently I had lunch with Jake Danker yesterday about CoStar. They have
I got CoStar.
Yeah, they have a lot of great data in there, a lot of stuff for different needs you have in real estate. So that's a couple of that. And I feel like I cut you off. You have a couple more that you wanted to add there.
Yeah, so I also, for social-wise and for finding local meetup groups, I would recommend an app called Meetup.
Okay, meetup.com.
Yep, so it's really big on the coasts. And here in the Midwest, it's not so big, but I have gotten more members to my group that have found me through Meetup than any other app that's out there. I pay as a person doing group events. I think I pay like $99 a quarter for this.
Okay.
And this has been really lucrative in bringing people, because there's people who come in from outside the Omaha area and find our groups just because listen. They're like, oh, there's nothing else listed on there. I'm like, yeah, because there's nobody else that puts their stuff out there. So Meetup is a great way to find events in whatever city you're in. I also use Calendly a lot.
That's a great one, actually. I used to use that quite a bit, and I haven't lately, but that's a good reminder.
And the last one I'm going to throw out is Tiny Scanner.
Oh,
so when you can't scan something at home and you're on the go, you can do a paid version of this and get unlimited scans. But Tiny Scanner allows you to do one at a time. You just got to delete the file after you scan it, but you only can do one, and you're limited on where you can send it with the free version. But honestly, the free version just works just fine.
How does that work then? You just have a document, you take a picture?
You hold it, and then it literally treats it just like a scan. You wouldn't be able to tell the difference, and it cuts the edges off.
Okay. So it's like an OCR scanner, and it crops all the edges, and then compiles it into one document.
Yep. I've been using it for quite a long time. It's really, really handy.
Tiny Scanner.
Yeah,
I've checked it out.
It'll turn it into a quick PDF format, or what? Actually, you can do any format you want with it. So.
One more thing I forgot. So, I get this a lot with, especially having a lending business. I have it's always random stuff coming in that I have to sign, personal guarantees and like promissory notes and like all the stuff, right? And I downloaded Adobe Sign it's not much. It's like $10 a month or something like that. But I mean, it adds up, and I'm not downplaying
You can
that.
go app poor though.
Totally, yes. You totally can. Yeah,
Yeah.
like it's like, you're cutting the cord on cable, and then all of a sudden you have like, you've got Netflix and Hulu and like Disney and like all the things, and you're paying more than you did when you had cable.
It's like with Airbnb. It's like, oh, I like that simplicity factor. I'm going to add this feature to this
Yes,
and this feature.
yes.
And all of a sudden you're like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm paying out $600 a month for all these features. Is it
Yeah,
worth it?
Exactly. Yeah. So anyway, that is I think a pretty good recap on a lot of good stuff.
We did this like 2 years ago once.
Yeah,
and
we did, and but there's more now. I feel like
Totally.
we added a lot more detail here. So
I think we actually planned it out, and by that time we were just going to shoot by the hip. So
high
look at us
five.
plan.
Good for us.
Before we wrap it up today, though, because I know we're going a little long, I think we're not doing justice for the fact that we talked about that there was a 0.5 point interest drop. And
0.5 point, long awaited. Like it's been what has it been now? 3 years?
at least I thought it was 4, but
4 years now since the last interest rate reduction by the Fed.
And they said there's definitely more to come. And I was listening to Jay.
They said that?
Yeah, they said that.
Okay.
And
Powell?
Yep. And Jay Scott, when I was listening to him talk about this recently, he goes, well, it's kind of funny because we know that the rate needs to be below 5 and above 2. What did you say, 2.5 or something like that? And I feel like they just threw a dart in the middle there and decided that's the magic number they need to get to. So he's anticipating around 3.5 is going to be the number.
Yeah, I think Jay Scott brought that up on Drunk Real Estate. Love that podcast.
Yeah,
one of my favorite real estate podcasts. If you haven't listened to it, tune into it on any of your real estate platforms. But so he brought up the fact that the Fed basically called out a specific target of 2% inflation was their goal for getting to that point before they basically started to try to normalize the interest rate environment. And instead of doing that, it was called out that it would have been probably a smarter idea to provide a range between 2 and 3, because now people are like holding their feet to the fire about like, oh, well, you said this and that. And so the Fed is notoriously pragmatic when it comes to like, giving predictions and like forecasts on what they're going to do, because stuff changes so fast.
Yeah.
So it came in, I think recent, inflation numbers have come in around the 2.4, 2.5% range, which they've always called out 2% forever. And that's been like a weird number that they pulled out of their ass, basically, based on Australian economists from years and years ago. Yeah. Anyway, the point.
I'm glad you recapped that, because I remember that they were talking about the interest rates, not the inflation rates. So I'm glad you recapped that.
And it was actually New Zealand. Now that I think about it more closely, sorry Australia, my bad. Sorry Hugh Jackman, but they loved you in Wolverine versus Deadpool.
It was. I didn't like that movie actually.
Yeah, it was awesome. Thanks, Hugh. So anyway, we had a big event. I mean, this has been a long time coming, and I'm really curious to see what's going to happen. Seems like locally, things have really fallen flat in the last couple of weeks. Do you want to talk about this? Like, we talked about this off air.
Yeah, and the short of it is, I got a lot of listings up right now, and I'm not getting any calls. And when I was talking to clients, and I know we're going to talk about this on Wednesday's podcast a little more in depth, but as I was talking to some clients, I'm like, hey, it's going to come down to like two things. It's going to come down to either this rate drop is going to spark it up, or it's going to have to wait until after the election. Because in my opinion, every election year is tough. But I in all my years, I've never seen an election year this tough in the real estate market, because there's always good rates. Yeah. For the last decade. So it hasn't really affected it as much as it is right now.
Yeah.
This is the craziest I've ever seen as far as like non-movement.
Yeah, stuff's slow right now. I can validate that with my personal experience. I've had some stuff listed, flips, rental property I've had for a long time. Like I mentioned it a couple episodes ago, of having trouble getting the number I want, or even any activity. Yeah, it's weird. It's weird times.
Yeah, we'll update you as that changes too. So.
Yeah, and we'll give market updates here on upcoming Monday episodes. So stay tuned for that. But hopefully you got some meat and potatoes out of this with today's golden nugget.
Well, with that, we want to give you a little teaser for what to expect on Wednesday's podcast with Luke. Luke is somebody I first met with in about 2017 or 2018 at a Dunkin' Donuts, where he wanted to pick my brain for a little bit. And here I was picking his brain the whole time, and then got talking about fighting, UFC fighting, whatnot. He's actually practiced with a lot of the bigwigs out there. So big guy, right?
Yeah.
And he was brought up in Jason Belt's podcast about a month or so ago. But you're gonna find just a genuine person that was really hard to get on the podcast, and I really shocked Owen when I was able to schedule him.
Ted sandbagged me with this one. I didn't know. Like, we have this thing, so when we're booking out podcasts, Ted does all the legwork on the front end, so I love you for that, because I would fail completely.
And you do most of the talking, so
yeah, I do. I take all the credit. Ted does all the work. That's kind of how it just works.
It just works. It's a good thing.
And so anyway, Ted made this happen, and it's funny because like he'll just throw up a calendar invite on a Friday when we record these, and I have no idea a lot of times who it's going to be, and I see a podcast episode scheduled with Luke Schollmeyer, and I'm like, what the hell? I'm like, how did this happen? Because I've been working on Luke for a while, and I just kind of basically gave up on him. But it wasn't
until I brought up Jason Belt talking about him that he's like, okay. Well,
the FOMO became real.
He wanted to make sure that his episode wasn't right after his because he's a bigger guy.
Yeah. But no, Luke, great dude. Like, I have tested his integrity. Tried to poke holes in it over the last few years, and he is a stand-up man and does what he says he's going to do. I have a lot of respect for Luke. Good friend. Has done so much cool shit in real estate. Mostly residential focused, but he is now pivoting potentially to get into commercial deals. Has a real estate license. Did that for self-serving purposes. You'll learn about that in the podcast coming up on Wednesday.
So to wrap it up and put a bow on it, make sure you listen to the Failing Forward on that one. It's really good.
It might involve me and some failures with that as well. And Ted.
So oddly included.
It hooked the three of us together, like, dragging, kicking, and screaming. But yeah, it should be fun.
Okay, guys. Hey, if this is the first time or the 145th time, first off, thank you for your dedication to the podcast. And it would just mean so much to us if you would share us to somebody that would get something out of this. And please give us a like and subscribe on whatever format that you listen to this on.
Amen, brother.
And with that, Owen Dashner, we see us out.
On behalf of Aiden Bear, REIA Radio, and Ted Kaasch, I'm Owen Dashner, and you've been listening to the Real Estate Rundown.
Deuces.
All right. What now? We didn't talk about the transition here. All right, here we go.
Radio edit.
All right.